The US and Israel have put forward a so called peace proposal. It has 20 points, is being pushed as the ultimatum, the final warning for Palestinian resistance forces in Gaza to heed, to accept. And it has the whole Middle East region abuzz. I had to look and research a lot into this, and I'm still fuzzy, admittedly, because it's a very tough one to provide analysis on. But here's the news. Recalculations are being made across the region by their administrations. Qatar is once again involved in mediation efforts, and it has confirmed that the details of the plan that Trump has proposed has been passed on to representatives of the main Palestinian resistance group operating out of Gaza. A response is now being awaited from them. That's if Israel can stop itself from trying to missile attack the negotiators looking over the deal that the US and Israel have put forward for long enough for them to actually read it and give a response. Now, there's a lot of confusion. Is this a good, quote unquote, good deal? Is this a fair deal? And of course, what most citizens and all administrations in the region are assessing, can Israel actually be trusted to keep their side of a deal if it's agreed? And of course, going back to when I said, is it a good deal, is it a fair deal? Good and fair is subjective, both sides obviously wanting what they want, not caring about what the other side wants. Anyway, now if past actions are anything to go by, both the United States and Israel have become notorious for breaking deals unilaterally or breaching diplomatic agreement. That's just a fact. Learn from the best, right? The US has been, after all, the master to the Israeli student, or now it's, you could say, the student has become the master in terms of deal breaking and diplomatic penalties, suffering no actual repercussions, but breaking deals left, right, and center. The Gaza ceasefire agreement of 2025 broken. The Qatar attack, a breach of diplomatic norms. The Israel South Lebanon ceasefire of 2024 broken. The Beirut attack, breach of diplomatic norm. Israel launched the 12-day war in June against Iran while Iran and the US were in active diplomatic negotiations. Once again, a breach of diplomatic norm. And yet, an offer, after saying all that, I have to say, an offer is still on the table for Gaza that would apparently allow international peacekeepers in, labeled by Trump's administration and as part of the proposal Israel put forward, calling the peacekeepers ISF, which sounds very similar to IDF, International Stabilization Forces. What are they going to stabilize? Peace or Israeli control over Gaza? Who knows? The composition of this agreed upon group would be useful to know. Who is the ISF? Is it going to be 20,000 people from Indonesia, like the Indonesian president offered, Prabowo Subianto, I believe? Or is it going to be something that Israel and the US rubber stamp, like the GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which was supposedly an aid organization, but other actual aid organizations denounced them, saying this is a sort of weird, barbaric bait and switch that this GHF is doing. They're bringing food, and then as people come, they're getting shot, they're getting killed, right? So, peace is the last thing that a peacekeeping organization green-lighted by Israel is likely to bring. Most likely you'll be in pieces, right? Or peace might be interpreted as, we'll send you to heaven where you'll be in peace, right? So it's very vague what the ISF is. Those components of the 20-point deal, very vague. Palestinian statehood, not included. Full withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, not included. Will Israel at least give up control of the borders to Gaza, to get into Gaza, so access can never be restricted again? Food and aid can go through Egypt, maybe Saudi Arabia, and all the countries, really, of the globe. When they want to give aid to the besieged people of Gaza, will they be able to get it through a crossing without the Israeli soldiers on the other side deciding when and where and how for how long to turn on and off the tap? Not included. Not included. Israel maintains the right to have military stationed at all entrances and exits to Gaza, like they have had these last 2 years, causing people to literally starve. So yeah, all that not included, and not included in this deal. So Israel could trigger a new siege whenever it wants, right? What is included, you might be wondering, Mahfouz? It sounds like Israel's just asking for an unconditional surrender. Well, yeah, actually, kind of is like that. So I'll get into it. Full disarming of resistance fighters in Gaza, that's included. Governance of Gaza will be under some vague new group not clearly yet outlined. Democracy, forget about it. This is not the West, guys. You can't govern yourselves. Don't be silly, right? We will choose. Maybe chuck in Tony Blair as Governor General, ex-UK Prime Minister. I'm not even making that up. Look it up. There'll be a Council of Peace that Trump leads. They're gonna run Gaza. Yeah. So that's all included. In summary, it's factually speaking a deal that favors Israel. As legacy news outlets have mentioned as well in their discussions and commentaries over the last 24 hours, it's a deal that tries to achieve for Israel through diplomacy what they have failed to do by force. They resorted to force in response to the October attacks of 2023, but they failed to achieve their war goals. Gaza is not under Israeli control. Gaza is not fully occupied by Israel. Gaza is not fully annexed by Israel. The resistance forces that Netanyahu, whatever, for the last 2 years, he's been saying, we're going to wipe them out, we're going to wipe them out. There's only just remnants. There's only remnants, salt bay sprinkles of these resistance forces left in this part and that part. We're going to take them out one by one. There was 24 battalions at one point, apparently only 2 are left. Then do you remember All Eyes on Rafah? Do you guys remember All Eyes on Rafah? As every Palestinian was squashed up against the Egyptian border in a sort of, it felt like the battle of the illegitimate children from Game of Thrones, right? Where the Jon Snow and his buddies are absolutely being toasted, completely surrounded by what was his name, Ramsay Bolton or Snow, whatever. God, these references are getting too out of control. My point is, All Eyes on Rafah. How did that end? Right? Apparently, resistance forces weren't just left in Rafah. Well, Israel came in, they cleared out Rafah. Resistance forces popped up again like a sort of, those whack-a-mole. And like that. So what are these, magicians? What are they? So Israel couldn't militarily take Gaza, right? Most sophisticated military aiding the Israelis couldn't give them the capability to take Gaza militarily. They couldn't defeat the resistance there. For better or worse, I'm not cheering either side on. I'm just giving you the facts, right? Sprinkled with my analytical assessments. But that is a fact. They couldn't take on the resistance and beat them. Not up to this point. So they have now come to the negotiating table, the Israeli state. But the question is, if considering this Israeli-US proposal leads to food and medicine allowed back into Gaza, that's going to be a tempting offer, has to be said, regardless of the balance of power, regardless of the geopolitical realities on the ground, regardless of whether or not Israel could, if in Netanyahu's own words, finish the job. Could they, couldn't they? You might disagree. Palestinian resistance might be like, they can't finish us. But the civilians are starving. Your adversary has resorted to basically taking out the weak spot, the women, the children, right? This is not a gentleman's fight. This is not a duel. If this was a duel, it's like the duelist getting frustrated, so starts chucking throwing knives at your wife in the stands or your children watching from the sidelines. You'll be like, what the flip is this? Why I didn't agree to that. Well, fight me, bro. Why are you chucking throwing knives at my kids? Well, that's your enemy. Deal with it. Work with what you've got. That's the reality, geopolitical reality, right? Now, Turkey has said it will involve itself in the diplomatic efforts now as well as Qatar. Translated by my assessment, what that means is the Muslim states in the region that are under America's sphere of influence to varying degrees, they'll try to convince the Palestinian resistance to take the deal. They'll say, listen, your people are losing their lives, the civilians, right? You got no way out. Lay down your arms, We'll try and, wink, wink, and nudge, nudge. We'll try and, fight your corner for you. Moving forward and get you a Palestinian state. You can trust us, because trusting us all these years has got you a state. Okay, it hasn't got you a state, but trust us this time, please. That's basically, when your people have no food or medicine left, I have to say, out of sheer desperation, any chance of food looks tempting. And if Muslim states in the area say, look, this is the best deal you're going to get, Palestinian resistance, they're going to try and get you to accept the deal. Now, the point really to finish on is, when the one offering the deal is the one who's withheld food from the mouths of your children. When the one offering the deal is the one that for the last 2 years has been taking out your civilian population, your people, not fighting your troops, but targeting the unarmed civilians. When the one who is putting forward the deal is extremely untrustworthy by all past examples, and they're backed by a nation that has very recently as well confirmed that their word isn't worth much either, diplomatically speaking. It puts you in a very difficult, position. Pro-Israeli analysts have said it's not hard, the decision. It's obvious. The Palestinian resistance must lay down their arms. Then they can get food and water and medicine and peace, right? It's all up to, this group, the hate group, it's all up to them now. What the Israeli analysts won't highlight to you, because, that would be spinless, and they need to keep spinning. They need to keep you spinning. What they won't highlight is Israel has been airstriking United Nations schools and hospitals and bakeries. More journalists have lost their lives in these last 2 years than through the entire Second World War across the globe, right? They've been sniping children with armed drones. They've been calling hospitals command centers. As recently as just the last couple of months, they've targeted hospitals with missiles, saying, "Oh, there was a Palestinian resistance camera." Reuters, very, very well reputed news source. Reuters confirmed, yeah, that's bogus. There was no resistance camera. These were just not social. These were just media. These were just press members that were just struck and killed in a double tap, remember. So they struck and then they waited and they struck again when paramedics arrived to take out the paramedics, right? Laying your weapons down, placing your life and the lives of your people in the hands of the monster. This is the framing of the resistance that I'm sharing with you, right? Just to give you an understanding. I'm not taking sides here. I'm just, hear me out. Putting your life and the lives of your people in the hands of the monster, according to the Palestinian resistance, putting all your trust in the monster that did all this in the first place is damn risky business, isn't it? It's damn risky business. It's tempting because they're saying, we'll let food in now, so your people won't starve anymore. But can you trust them? Because if the resistance force is completely disarmed, let's say you go by the book, do exactly what Israel tells you to do now, they might just go in and, quote unquote, as Netanyahu would say, finish, as Netanyahu has said, they might just go in. The IDF might just go in and finish the job. They'll be like, well, they were disarmed, but, they're still resistance fighters. We can't forget what they did in October 2 years ago. Right? Because October 2023 justifies for Israel whatever they want to do. They use it as justification for everything. And they say that, obviously, October 2023 cannot be justified by anything. So it's just, it's spun in a very, very skewed way. Would you put it past the IDF to demand as part of a deal that you lay down your arms? And you lay down your arms and then they come in anyway. And can you imagine being defenseless against the group that has done what has been done over the last 2 years? Are you sure that's safe? This is the geopolitical difficulty. This is the thought process. These are the conversations that are being had by Palestinian resistance. Are the negotiators from Qatar, now Turkey, and the US and Israel are waiting, of course. The eyes of the world are watching, and people are continue to be starving. We, of course, hope for peace and pray that the civilians everywhere find an end to this horror. I say everywhere, but really, Gaza is where the problem is right now. I'll keep you posted with the latest news and analysis, without the Western spin, of course. I'm Mahfouz, and I'll see you on the next one.